Welcome back to another episode of Southern Scrap Nation's podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Jonas, and this is the post fight breakdown for UFC London, um, Volkov versus Verdum. We'll get into that in a little bit. Uh, it is 11:03 on a Sunday here in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's kind of warm, coolish outside. I don't know, it feels nice. Um, hope you all had a good weekend. Hope you guys had a good St. Patrick's Day. I know people here in the city had a good St. Patrick's Day. There was fucking bar crawl. Um, People were getting drunk at 10 in the morning. Um, Not the life I live, but I guess for some people that's what they want to do and never want to leave college. But bar crawl's huge here. I actually did the Halloween one, which wasn't bad. Um, but this one, wow, the woo girls were out. It's the girls that like to sit there, take pictures, and go woo. It's like Ric Flair, but very feminine. Anyway, so last night I had a Fight Lab card, which that's here in Charlotte's local fight promotion, and it was a big card. I got my official cornerman's license, so I'm registered with the state of North Carolina. Anyone that's looking for a coach or whatever, I got you. Um, but it was fun. I got to hang out with my team, a couple of the guys from Charlotte Jiu-Jitsu Academy. Shout out to the guys there. Billy Jack, John Henney, um, Curtis, and Sebastian all fought last night. It wasn't the best night for the team, but it was still a good night of fights, and everyone seemed to have fun, and it was good. It was good. We had a mix of amateur and pros, amateur title fights and pro title fights. Night full of knockouts, and it was action packed. There was like I don't know how many how many fights, at least 20. So if you guys are ever in the Charlotte area and there is a fight lab going on, I definitely recommend going to one of those. They do a great job with promotions. Al Simmons is the general manager there, and he puts on a hell of a show. Um, and then shout out to Kenny, the owner, who can make that all happen. So once again, John Piper and the guys from Charlotte Jiu-Jitsu Academy, shout out to you guys. Thanks for letting me um, join you on the Cornerman Trail last night, and it was definitely an experience, and I can't wait to do it again. So that being said, once again, we are available on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play, as well as YouTube. So check those out. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. So look for a lot of posts and stuff coming up to you guys in the future. I can't wait to make a. I'll be. Uh, I just hired a social media marketing person, so they're going to help me out with getting the messages out to you guys and being able to reach a bigger audience. Because I would like to get this podcast expanded, but I only have such a finite reach with the people I know. Anyway, so a lot to talk about. Last night there was also a UFC fight card in London. Um, I did a breakdown, and God, MMA is a MMA is a motherfucker. I got 1 out of 4 right, so sorry to those that went with my bet on that one. I didn't expect that to happen. So why don't we kick it off with the beginning of the main card? Uh, just to highlight some of the stuff on the prelims. We had a lot of rear naked chokes and a lot of finishes on the prelims, as well as a 4 minute and 59 second third round submission victory by Paul Craig, getting it out there in the last seconds. Just getting beat up on the feet, getting beat up on the ground by a bigger opponent, a more Fedor kind of style opponent. But he got that submission in, and I've always been a fan of Paul Craig. He took a short notice fight a while back, and that's what got him on the scene, and his story is just awesome. So, um, and he took a couple of skids along the way, but is back on the winning track right now and feeling high on life. So, congrats to Paul Craig. So the first fight was Peter Sabata versus Leon Edwards on the main card. Like I predicted, I had Peter Sabata um, landing the heavier shots, stopping Leon Edwards from trying to go to the ground with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background, or if he did take it to the ground, threaten with submissions to keep the fight standing. So the way that went was a first round knockdown by Leon Edwards, and what really caught my eye was the speed of Leon Edwards compared to Sabata, and I think that's what initially was the beginning and the end for the whole fight. Leon Edwards was just always a little bit faster to the punch, even though Leon Edwards was very, very patient. Um, that first round knockdown just led to a lot of groundwork on the bottom. It, it was kind of like nullified. Leon Edwards did good on the ground, but Peter Sabata is always throwing submissions, and he's a very well-rounded black belt. So he's no slouch on the ground when it comes to just be able to posture up, throw down strikes on him. So going into the second round, well, before going into the second round, Leon Edwards was got a little tired from the groundwork, so he was waiting patiently on Peter Sabata to throw because he found success in the countering, but when that leads to kind of just leads to waiting and not really pressing action. He was walking down Sabata the whole entire time, so there was that. Second round, ground control from Sabata. Um, After Leon scored a takedown off the fence, it was an inside trip. Nothing that required so much energy, but Sabata grabbed a Kimura grip, took the back. Leon Edwards postured up, um, and then Sabata just fell off the top. He was a little bit too high on the back, going for that Kimura. And he was just, once again, it went back to Leon Edwards being very patient, waiting for Peter Sabata to overextend on something, waiting for Peter Sabata to do something. And then Leon Edwards wanted to counter or find success in the pressure past that and, you know, either get him to the cage, get him down to the ground. And once again, just rack up points or counter him on a shot. So third round, Peter Sabata got a takedown. Um, he used it pretty much to get away from Leon Edwards striking. He was getting beat up on the feet. Leon was a little bit faster to the punch every time, like I said. And so he got the top mount, or he got swept top position. Leon Edwards pretty much got him to the cage, and then that led to a late stoppage, like 4 minutes, 49 seconds with a TKO. And third round, I honestly thought the ref was stopping it because he thought the bell went off already, and they were just ending the fight. But it was actually Peter Sabata was against the cage, taking shots, and the ref was like, "You got to work, Peter. You got to work." And Peter didn't work, so called it 4 minutes and 49 seconds, or 59 seconds. Third round, late finish. Probably sad that these late finishes, they're cool and they're awesome for the person that won, but the person that lost, it's even worse. It's like I survived. At least it's a decision, but now on the record it says a K or TKO or submission or whatever, and the decision could have, not necessarily in this fight, but in the last fight with Paul Craig, the other guy could have won if he just didn't tap for 1 more second. For 1 second, he could have won the fight, but he tapped. Obviously, that just shows how incredible the triangle of Paul Craig is, but on top of that, that just shows, how crazy the sport is. So the key takeaway from the fight with Peter Sabata for me and Leon Edwards was Leon just had faster hands, and the good defense on the ground kind of nullified all those take or nullified all the submission attempts uh, that Peter Sabata was putting on. So Leon could be patient, work the ground attack, like beat him up on the ground, but not have to worry about the submission. And if he did get put into submission, his defense was good enough to get out, get it back standing. So, like I said, Leon Edwards with the late third round KO. Going on to the next fight, we had Tom Duquesnoy versus Terrion Ware. This is the fight I got right, but I barely got this one right. Terrion Ware really showed how big he is for the weight class, but also as much as he walks forward, and like I said before, he was kind of that punching bag. In this fight, he was still that walking forward guy, but he showed that he wasn't so much of a heavy bag of it. He would do everything right. He wouldn't take as much damage. The only damage he was really taking was leg kicks. So in the first round, Tom Dukenwall with the quickness of a combination just starts off with a three-piece, like off-angle punches. So um, leading underneath uh, Terrion Ware's like guard, and then follows up with a leg kick. Within the last or within the first round, Tom Dukenwald lands at least 15 to 17 low leg kicks. Um, but Terrion Ware kept going, kept coming forward, kept coming forward, putting Tom Dukenwall on the back foot, forcing him to expend more energy than he wanted to. So Tom Dukenwall, or no, he got taken down at the very end. So Terrion Ware, when you see the difference of how big they're on the ground, Terrion Ware could have smothered him if he wants to do the takedown game. He could have taken him down and just been the bigger guy on top. But um, the round ends. So the second round comes out. Leg kicks are the name of the game for Tom Dukenwall. He just keeps putting it on, keeps putting on the leg kicks. Terrion Ware actually is scoring more scoring more strikes all over to the head, body, wherever it may be. And Tom was using the combos to lead into the leg kicks. Anytime that Terrion Ware would throw a leg kick, it would just be a leg kick without the hands, using to, cover the face and then go low, body, head. Um, so whenever Terrion Ware would throw a leg kick, it was just a leg kick. It would just be, it's a solo shot, allowing Tom to throw one right back. Um, so yeah, so Tom was starting to wear down. The constant pressure was tiring him out. He went for a failed takedown at the very end. Led Terrion to be on top once again. I don't know why he went for the takedown. He kind of tried to go for this throw. Terrion stepped over. And once again, the fight ended up on the ground, but Terrion's in a better position. So when it comes to these rounds, I gave the first round to Tom because of the quickness he had. He was just beating him to the punch. And then when it comes to the second round, I kind of found it even. And then on the third round, I guess the combos won the fight for. I think the combos won the fight for Tom, like the combinations with the leg kicks, because the leg kick up damage and the leg kick count was ridiculous. But Terrion landed more strikes in the fight, and that pressure, and I think throughout that whole round, Terrion was really putting it on him. And if this was a 5-round fight, yeah, Tom would have been out by the 4th or 5th round. Because Terrion didn't seem like he was winded or whatever. He seemed fine. He was just taking those like damage or taking those shots. Didn't seem like they caused a lot of damage. And it was a pretty good. It was a pretty good game plan. Obviously, you have to take those low kicks, but if that means you can get in and get your hands on them, then do what you got to do. So the key to this fight was the fluidity of fighting that these guys fought. They just went from combination to combination. They were relaxed. When they took a punch, they came right back. There's no tense. Like when you watch some of these fighters fight, they get all like tense and they feel like everything that they throw is power. When these guys throw, it's like they're throwing their arm out, and at the very last second, it becomes a punch. Very Bruce Lee-esque, if you will. Same thing with the leg kicks. Like there was no effort with it. You turned the hips over. They just moved with the punches. Every time Terrion got hit, he moved with it, moved back in. And as much as it seemed like he was taking damage, he was moving with the punch, so it took damage away from the punch. It was a good fight. Tom Dukenwall with the split decision. So I called it, but I think Terrion should have won. Personally. So the next fight was a rematch between Juan Blakovic versus Jimmy Manawa. Well, holy shit. this was a pretty good fight for the light heavyweight division. I did not hate this fight at all. Now, that being said, these guys, it was an exciting fight, and it's like, oh man, these guys are in the light heavyweight division. And then you look at the rest of the light heavyweight division. It seems like two different weight classes because it's like two different skill levels in the weight class. So let me go over the fight and I'll explain what I mean. So the first round, Blakovic lands a knockdown. He was using good work from the outside. What he learned was even though he was getting pressed the whole entire time, Blakovic's game plan was jab. Because Jimmy Manuwa is known for that left hook, and every time he comes in with a power shot, he just left hooks, or he just left hooks to get in, and then he'll figure it out. Left hook to the body, left hook to the head. That's the name of his game. So anytime he tried to go with one of those wide punches, Juan would just beat him to the punch with a jab, and then he'd follow up with a cross, and that's what led him to that knockdown. And then when it came to the brawls, he would fight in the brawls. He would oblige Jimmy in the brawls, but just like Holloway does when he throws the brawling punches, he keeps them on the inside. He allows Jimmy to go with the full power and tries to crack him on the outside with his big, powerful hooks. But Juan just sneaks stuff inside, breaking up the chaos of the brawl, allowing him to counter with something even heavier. And those shots opened up Jimmy on the nose, starts to make him bleed, and that bleeding will cause him to start breathing heavy. So the first round I gave to Blakovic because of the knockdown, obviously. So the second fight, Blakovic was being very. He learned from the last fight. So the last fight, they spent a lot of time on the cage being clenched up. Because after Jimmy presses so hard, it throws a big shot, he just ends up pressing, like falling into the opponent. And it ends up, being in a very tight, or a very either double underhook or, over under situation against the cage. Well, Blakovic learned from this in this fight where whenever Jimmy Manuwa would throw a heavy shot, Blakovic would use the spring of the cage to change levels and go underneath the punch and allow him to go for a takedown. Whether or not it lands, he can at least use the underhooks that he grabbed from the takedown to spin around and take the inside. So it allowed him not to get pressed up against the cage, and not get smothered in those clinch situations. So Blakovic somehow took a nasty head kick from Jimmy and came over the top, brought Blakovic's head down. Definitely was stunned, rocked, almost out of not out on his feet, but may have been. But he was definitely wobbling on chicken legs. But I took away from this, Jimmy's now fighting with an open mouth, getting tired. There was some nasty leg check. There was a lot of checks, like leg kicks. I can't believe I'm blanking on this. But Blakovic did very well checking kicks, and when he check kicks, he really, turned the foot on the outside, intercepted that kick from the outside, and really made Manuwa, decide whether he wanted to throw those leg kicks. He ended up throwing two and getting checked real bad on both of them, so good on him, but, shit hurts. So third round, Blakovic just invests in the jab, double jabs, 1-1-1-2s, 1-1-2s, 1-1-2s, the whole entire fight for the rest of the round. And just, beats him on the points. Just jabbing, keeping Jimmy at bay. And then in the last 20 seconds, lands a takedown on it to solidify he wins the round. Really, the key to this fight for me was Blakovic made improvements since the last fight, and Jimmy didn't. Jimmy's the same fighter that he fought, when they first fought. Obviously, there's a grudge match that could happen between the two of them. But to me, that just shows that Jimmy got real invested in the fact that he could knock people out with his left hook and didn't make any improvements to his game, like how to set the left hook up. Like, find different ways to set his left hook up so situations like this don't happen. And so Blachowicz made a real good showing of his improvements and his ability to go back to the drawing board and game plan better. It was a decision for Blachowicz, a very good decision. He wants to fight Shogun after this. I think that's a perfect fight for him. But like I said, what I mean by this division is you look at Blachowicz, you look at Manawa, you look at all the guys that these guys knock out and the showings that they put on, and they're exciting fighters, and they do work in the cage, and they get these wins. But after Shogun, who are you going to put him against if he wins? He could probably edge out. I don't know if he fought OSP. I have to look it up, but put him against an OSP. Could put him against an Iyer Latifi. I think they've already fought though. Yeah, they already fought. But then what? Gustafsson? Nah, he would get torched by Gustafsson. And obviously DC, if DC comes back in. I mean, these guys are on such a higher level that it's almost like the rest of the division sorting itself out. But then once they figure it out, they go to the champ, and then it's like, oh well, these guys need to work on either wrestling, because no one's beaten DC on the wrestling and the pressure game. For example, if Juan Blachowicz did that same game plan with DC, DC's not just throwing the left hook. DC's setting up, he's chaining takedowns together. He's pushing against the cage. That same game plan, obviously it's a different opponent, but that even though having the perfect game plan for Jimmy Manawa, Blachowicz was like, he still got hit. It wasn't easy, right? And Jimmy Manawan, no offense to Jimmy Manawan anyway, but to DC, that's a walk in the park. I mean, that's a single leg in a Volkan Ozdemir clinic. Pass the guard, crucifix, bam, bam, bam. Give me that check. So it's cool to watch these fights, and it's awesome. And I think that was a great fight. But just for the rest of the division, it doesn't really mean much to me. Right? They can fight whoever, but at the end of the day, if you're not beating DC, which he says he's retiring in March, so who's left? I mean, John Jones when he comes back, and then there's Gustafsson, and those two can figure it out. But then between those two, which obviously have John Jones all day on that, John Jones is way on a different level than these guys. So I don't know. I think it's fun to watch the division go on as it's going on right now, and I think it's a perfect reason why they're doing this light heavyweight championship. So that way, the 205 division can kind of just figure itself out before DC makes this big either move or retirement in March. Move would be in July because he would have beaten Stipe, but he would have to go to heavyweight, or the big retirement that he's talking about in March. So, to the main event. Alexander Drago Volkov versus Fabricio Verdum. So when I broke down this fight, I looked at where these guys had the deficit in the fight. And Verdum striking compared to Volkov striking, I thought was going to be on not necessarily the same level, but at least the unorthodox fighting style of Fabricio Verdum, I thought would allow him to create openings, either something sneaky and then to the takedown, like sneaky rock him, go to the takedown or go to submission, or use the openings to get inside and get a better single leg like he got. So Verdum started the fight with faking one of those flying kicks. Volkov already having fun in there. Tall fighter. Around the same height as Stefan Struve. He goes for the takedown, gets it, controls Volkov for at least 2 minutes on the ground, trying to do work. What I noticed is every time he would throw a strike to Volkov, Volkov got full guard back real quick. Those long legs, he does real good hip work on the bottom. Not easy for a big guy. So keeping Verdum in the closed guard for pretty much 2 minutes of the round is incredible. I mean, you're talking about a world champion black belt, and he and Verdun would use the can opener, which is when you have the closed guard, leg dropped around your opponent. The opponent would do that old school, or Verdun would grab the back of the neck and pull in to try to compress the body, make it uncomfortable to open up the guard. However, with a longer opponent, they have some slack because their legs are so long. And then he'd use that to posture up and try to land strikes from the outside. However, Volkov, being so tall, used the answer the phone block and couldn't really get around his arms. So as much as it seemed like he was doing work on the bottom, not really, not really as much as I thought he was. Uh, so Volkov uses a moment to get up and then just volleys a bunch of strikes at Verdum, uppercuts through the guard, um, and then walking him down over the top, you know, chases him all to the fence. Um, yeah, it showed that Volkov's striking is way better than I thought it was, right? Or Verdum's striking is just not on that level. So as much as Volkov, so the fight kind of flipped for me. So I thought that Verdum's striking would be good enough to stop Volkov's striking and get him to a takedown to submission. However, it showed that Volkov's ground game and defense was good enough to keep him standing and really lay it on Fabricio Verdum. So every time Fabricio Verdum would throw a kick, one of those teeps to the body, snap kicks to the front to the body, Volkov would just catch it. He was much slower than Volkov was, and Volkov would just dump him. Wouldn't follow him to the ground. Fabricio tried to pull him, like guard pull him down to the ground, but Volkov more often than not would just lift the heel, walk him back, and let Verdum fall. So the second round, Verdum comes out. His eyes already busted open. His right eye's busted open from an uppercut that Volkov landed. Volkov picks Verdum apart from the outside, defending takedowns. Um, Verdum finally gets a takedown on Volkov and starts to rain down punches. Once again, not reaching around the guard, but he still you know rains down punches, and then attempts a Kimura lock on Volkov in the final rounds, far side from half guard, and then like the last 10 seconds, like really tries to crank on it. But once again, defense for Volkov was great. Verdum isn't known for his ground and pound, right? He's not a Khabib, he's not a Daniel Cormier, he's not a Stipe in that case. These guys that are able to get on top, find the openings, and land shots where the opponent's not blocking, keep their base up, not let their opponent defend or try to grab an underhook to pull them down. Fabricio Verdum's very good at just the old school kind of just like punch, 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 punch. Try to tire their opponent's arms out, but not really effective ground and pound. So the Kimura once again defended, not something that I would expect him to just like get at this point. From what I saw, Volkov's defense and everything, and in that point I learned that Volkov and Verdum actually trained together during Verdum's fight camp for Travis Brown. Volkov came in there to mimic him, so they've at least seen, each other's cards. Maybe not all of them, but enough to know what they bring to the table. So the third round comes in, or third round, Verdum goes for a takedown and gets clipped on the way in with an uppercut, and that forces him not to finish the takedown with the drive, but pull guard. Rolls under for a sweep, gets up on gets on top of the sweep in top half guard. Volkov steps or uses that to the scramble to stand back up. Verdum repeats the cycle again, pulls guard to the half guard sweep, and then using that to at one point take the back for a little bit. But Volkov steps up, and then once again, every time Verdum tries to throw one of those front kicks, Volkov grabs it, dumps him, and then just tells him to stand up. They're having fun in there in the sense that they're both laughing, talking shit to each other, da 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 da. But it was almost like Volkov was the bigger guy, the more experienced guy in there. Kind of made a fool of Verdum, in the standing exchanges. Verdum's right eye at this point was cut on bottom and on top, so very, you know, imagine fighting kind of like this, but not to the extent. Just imagine like rubbing your eye real bad, and it'd be blurry as shit for like the rest of the fight. There's like blood coming down, your eyes pretty much closed. It's a nuisance, especially if there's a left shot coming the whole entire time. And as a vet, that Volkov is, for sure he's going to go for it. For sure he's going to try to hit it, um, or use it as a fake. So then fourth round comes about. Verdum's coming out gassed already. It's kind of looking like the end. You know, it's not the same Verdum that we're all used to. He kind of seemed tired and not alive. Um, he's getting walked down. He's getting tagged. It's, you know, whatever. He pulls half guard again. He goes for this deep half sweep. Keeps going for the deep half sweep. Volkov defends. Leads them to get to their feet. And then Verdun just goes for broke because he's a warrior. And then just starts standing there and banging with Volkov. Volkov, being the taller fighter, finds openings for these uppercuts. One uppercut goes through, another one. The other one turns him away, comes over the top, with the right, sits Verdum down, and then passes the guard to throw two shots to bounce his head off the canvas, and the fight's over. Volkov by KO in the fourth round. Didn't see that coming, but that just shows the striking versatility of Volkov, and he picks his opponents apart. Stefan Struve, he did a late finish as well. Pretty sure fourth round. Volkov's one of those guys where he'll take whatever the opponent's going to give him, and then he's still there, right? Verdum gave him all he could give him on the ground, and then Volkov still stood up and was still there. He's a phenomenal striker with an incredible amount of experience, 20-something wins, or at least 20-something fights, but I'm pretty sure 20 wins at least. 22 finishes, first-round finishes. He's like an M1 global champ. I mean, credentials for sure. He was talking about how he deserves a title shot. Not yet. Slowly roll. Like go through a striker of your caliber. If Alistair Overeem can beat Curtis Blades, fight the winner of that. I think definitely fight one of the top guys first, or fight a striker that can compare. Travis Brown's not fighting, and I don't think that would be the fight for him. But obviously, he beat the former champ. He beat Stefan Struve, the guy that beat the current champ. But that's still not enough. So Volkov, to me, is the Stefan Struve that everyone wanted but never got. He's a tall guy that knows how to use his jab, knows how to use his striking and his height. And I mean, his name's Drago. Dude's like mean, right? He's like a mean dude. But that was the fight. That was the fight card. Doesn't really leave much, but it was an exciting night of fights. You know, a lot of finishes. But now we have a hiatus. Dun dun dun. Drum roll, please. To UFC 223. 223 in Brooklyn, New York. Tony Ferguson versus Khabib Nurmagomedov for the 155-pound championship, co-headlined by Rose Namajunas versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk for the 115 strawweight match, rematch everyone's waiting to see. So I'm just going to go through the card real quick. Like I said, for the next couple weeks or so, I'll be going through at least the main event and co-main event in much deep detail. I think I'll do my 2 specific breakdowns for both those, if not just one big breakdown for the first fight, because there's a lot of what ifs with the Tony Khabib fight, and there's so many breakdowns people have, and a lot of people do see where Tony can win, and I do. I like the way of thinking that they have, because it's the way I'm thinking. And the more that stuff comes out this week and next week of fight camps and stuff that I can watch on these guys, I'll be able to see and break down more and more. So to go over the card, like I said, Tony Ferguson versus Khabib Nurmagomedov for the 155-pound championship. Rose Namajunas versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk for the strawweight championship. Hinata Moikanya versus Calvin Qatar at 145. That's a great fight. Hinata Moikanya, last fight, I'm pretty sure it was the Brian Ortega where he lost. I'll look that up. But Calvin Qatar's last fight was against Shane Burgos, and he made a name for himself in that fight. That was great. He showed that the fundamentals definitely make a difference in that all fancy footwork crap that people do sometimes. If you try to Dominic Cruz and you're not Dominic Cruz, work on it. Michael Chiesa versus Anthony Pettis at 155. Great fight for these guys. It's like gatekeepers kind of going at it. It's up to Anthony Pettis to make a change. If Anthony Pettis can make a change and, I don't know, go back to the way he fought, because going back means he still doesn't have that wrestling defense that is his kryptonite. But if you can get that aggressiveness with the kicks and the striking that he had and the creative flow that he had, then there might be something to say. And Michael Chiesa's got to make up for that loss to Kevin Lee that he had. That so-called early stoppage of a choke. But so it's up to him. It's a good fight. It's a good fight for sure. Ally Quinta versus Paul Felder. I'm excited for this fight. This could be fight of the night. They're not talking shit to each other per se, but they don't have anything nice to say to each other. So, and these guys are just two guys that are gonna bring it. Ally Quinta has got that nice boxing, clean, crisp boxing with Paul Felder. He's got that cowboy karate style, and both are dangerous with the hands. Both are very dangerous with the hands. Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Felice Herring. This strawweight division, my God, it's so. For people that aren't hardcore fans or don't watch women fighting, shame on you. This 115-pound division is fire. If you don't watch any of these girls fight, then if you want to be an analyst or whatever, if you think that you know fighting, get the fuck out, because you don't know. These girls are ridiculous right now. You got Karolina Kowalkiewicz that went 5 rounds with the champ, or the former champ Joanna, and put her on showed that she had power. Tagged Joanna, clipped her essentially, had her hurt in the 4th round or 3rd round, and then you have Felice Herring, who's on a roll since this new resurgence of her. You got two. This is a kickboxing match for sure. 2 girls, phenomenal in the stand-up department. So might end up on the ground, and we'll see what happens there. But phenomenal kickboxers. And then you look at the rest of the division: Claudia Gadelha. Then you have Jessica Andrade sitting there waiting, Tisha Torres, and then Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Felice Herring. If Rose wins, that opens up a whole new, string of fights. I mean, obviously, if Joanna wins, she's already beat most of the girls there. But if Rose wins, that's just a whole new, row of fighters that she can fight. And it opens up a bunch of contenders and contender fights. And it's just a great division right now. I fucking love it. So, at 125, we have Ray Borg and Brandon Moreno. I like this fight. 2 young guys. Just one's bouncing back from the mighty whiz bar that Mighty Mouse put on him. Just coming back from that loss from Demetrius. So we'll see if he reinvented himself. And then you have Brandon Moreno, who's coming off a loss from Sergio Pettis. So hopefully these guys are coming back better and stronger than ever. We'll see where that fight goes. I love it. I think it's a great fight. Brandon Moreno is one of my favorite flyweights. He's super charismatic Mexican fighter that, he's crafty. He's just a crafty dude. And he's got that fluidity of fight flow, EFF. He does whatever feels comfortable in that moment. And then Ray Borg, obviously, just nasty on the ground. He kind of got exposed in the Demetrius fight, but Demetrius exposes everybody. So hopefully he got the rub from Demetrius and doesn't, look at the Demetrius fight as doesn't look back at it and or doesn't even not ignores the fact that he lost or doesn't take anything away. So hopefully he takes something away and gets the rub from it. Then that's followed by Evan Dunham Joe Lozon versus Chris Gutzmacher at 155. Joe Lozon, a vet. Chris Gutzmacher looking to make a name off of a vet. So we'll see where that fight goes. I have to watch some stuff on Chris. I'm pretty sure I've seen some of his fights. I just have to get up to date with who he's fought and how he's performed. So then you have Evan Dunham versus Oliver Aubin Mercer, Canadian guy. 155 event. Originally it was supposed to be Evan Dunham versus Mysvek Taisimov, but that guy can't get a visa for the United States to fight. I don't know. Crazy. Whatever. This fight, Evan Dunham's always game. Vet of the sport. He's really good at mixing things in. Very well-rounded fighter. Nothing about him stands out. Aubin Mercier is a wrestler. I mean, his work is shoot in, takedown, ground and pound, very GSP style. Obviously training over there in TriStar. Then you have Alex Caceres versus the GOAT, Artem Lobov. So this is the tale of two salty records of 13-11 versus 14-14. I mean, the name of the game is for Alex Caceres, keep on the outside, use your Bruce Leroy skills, and Artem Lobov's to catch him when he misses a kick and catch him with those iron hands that he has. Use that chin to get inside, I guess. So having Artem there shows that Connor will be there. Hopefully they'll be doing this big thing after whoever wins the Tony Khabib fight. That would be sick. Have some trash talking. That's followed by Beck Rawlings versus Ashley Evans Smith at 125. 125er fight, so, new edition. I'll watch more of their stuff and get back to you guys. Not much more to say about that fight. Pretty sure Ashley Evans Smith's coming off of a win and Beck Rawlings is coming off of a loss. Devin Clark versus Michael Rodriguez at 205, so the biggest fighters. This is a 155 stack card. 155, 145 stack card. So it's a lower weight fight card, but just fire on every fight. Great fights. Don't know too much about Devin Clark or Michael Rodriguez. I'll get back to you guys on that one. And then the fight to start it off is going to be Zabit. Let's see if I got this. I'm going to try. Zabit Magomedov Shapirov. Magomed Shapirov. Zabit Magomed Shapirov. Alright. This guy is Dagestani. His first fight in the UFC, he jumped off the cage to try to kick somebody. So, high ceiling for this kid. He's 14-1. He's going against Kyle Boshniak. Zabit is like this up-and-coming prospect for the division. It seems like he's got a lot of potential. I hope to see a lot from him. He's got obviously a good ground game. He fights in that Dagestani, camp that Khabib's from. So he's obviously got the ground game. It's just his striking standing up is nasty as well. Great fight card, like I said, fight card for the lower weight classes. I'm excited. It's on April 7th, so we got some time. We got some time to break this down. Drink my coffee, figure out who's really going to win this, do a lot of studying about it. Other than that, so to give you guys an idea, I'm just going to do another, this week I've just got the slips and slips throughout the week, giving you guys that MMA news breakdown. I'm gonna update you on Floyd's wrestling, because according to him, it's a 7 out of 10. So, in 2 to 3 weeks, with Tyron Woodley's help, he might get it up to a 10. I'm excited to see his wrestling progress. For those that don't understand, I'm being completely sarcastic, even though he did say on TMZ the other day that his wrestling was a 7. And that makes me really wonder if my wrestling's even good. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'll be back here next week. We'll go over some more news. I'll be more gossipy this on that podcast. Um, and then once again, I look forward to doing some more breakdowns for the upcoming fights. There's a lot to get into. So stay tuned. You guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Enjoy this Sunday of recovering if you guys went out. And we'll be back with you next Wednesday. Thanks, guys.